All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. We are going to pick up kind of where we left off last week. I actually got a bunch of stuff done over the weekend, most of which is invisible, but some of which is very visible. So we'll go over that. But before we do, I do want to just take a quick second and thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with the elite partner Javier Olazaran. That is the highest tier of subscription over there on YouTube, memberships, and Patreon, followed by our partners Gorboli's Inc. and Matt Oscar. That's the next tier there of support, followed by the list of supporters you see here scrolling past the screen. They are a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, Patreon, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very, very much for that support. It is greatly helpful to me in covering the costs of running this channel and project, things like software licenses, hosting fees, eventually, assets that I'm not capable of making, things like that. So it's greatly appreciated, and thank you for that. And of course, a big shout out to you guys, the viewers, whether you're joining us here live on the YouTube side or the Twitch side, or if you're just catching the VOD after the fact. Thank you guys so much for being here. Without you guys, this project and this channel wouldn't exist. So I appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you guys for being here. All right, cool. So let me just make sure. Sometimes Twitch's UI here bugs out a little bit. Let me just refresh that. So we'll make sure we're actually live. Yeah, we are. Okay, good. Okay, so where we left off last time was we had started looking into a bunch of different things in terms of editor interface, specifically the what we're calling the tree view, which we're going to use to select items within the scene, right? The currently active scene. And we kind of got a decent way through it. And then I kind of realized that, hey, I think we really need to update the system to kind of reflect the way that all the other systems work. And we kind of started that refactor in the last episode. Apotham, thank you so much for the 12 months of Tier 1. Thank you very much for that support. I greatly appreciate that. How have you been? Hope you're doing well. So,
you dingus.
Thank you, Smiley the Third, for the follow. Appreciate that. Welcome. So, in the last stream, we kicked off that refactor, and I said that I was going to do probably a good portion of it off camera after I kind of explained the basics of how we were going to do it. And we kind of went over the design in the last stream, and so I've gone ahead and done that. And this last weekend, I just went ahead and just, buckled down and just refactored the way that the UI system works. So there are a few changes that come with that. It is no longer known as the standard UI. I've renamed it to KUI for Kohi UI, right? It just makes a little bit more sense. I've renamed the assets, like the shaders, to reflect that as well as like the atlas and things like that. And so part of the reason behind that was because I do actually, the more I think about it, the more I think that I might actually wind up using this UI plugin for the actual game itself outside of just the editor. And standard UI, I don't know, just the name didn't really sit well with me. So now we have KUI is what we call it for short. It's just the Kohi UI, right? And it is still an optional plugin. The editor is using it now. In the testbed, we are using it, and in our game code, we're using it, but we don't have to. We can set up something completely different if we want to. And so everything that had sort of the SUI naming scheme to it has been renamed to KUI. We also had some stuff that was named like standard UI underscore blah, 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 blah. So all of that has been reorganized and now is consistent in terms of naming. And so the biggest portion of this that has changed, and I'll go over it once more, is, in fact, actually, there's a comment in here, but I'll be addressing that soon. We actually have this is technically the second version of the Kohi UI system, right? So even though we renamed it, this is kind of what we're calling version 2.0. Which, speaking of which, I don't think I actually updated the version text for that. So let me actually do that. All right. The way that this works now is we used to take pointers to all of the controls. And so we had these different types. These used to be SUI underscore, now they're KUI underscore. Base control, which is basically just a control that acts as sort of a container. It doesn't really have any properties of its own. And then panel control, label control, button, text box, tree item. And so some of these controls have some overlap. Some of them use other controls within them. And none of those concepts have really changed. The only thing that has really changed is within those structures themselves. We now have a sort of base structure that's shared amongst all of them instead of having dynamically allocated memory that points to sort of an internal data. We don't really do that anymore. The other thing is everything having to do with controls now deals with a handle. Let's see, did I find that here, or I think I put that in. So we have something called the KUI control. This is basically just a U32. I'll go over why it's a struct in a second. But essentially, this U32 encodes both the type of UI control it is, as well as an index into that array. So if we take a look at the states of the KUI system, we have an array for each type of control. We have the type of control is tells us which one of these arrays to go into, and then the array index tells us obviously how to index into that. And so that is what stores or tells us how to look that up. Now, in the last stream, one difference is this was just a straight up typedef U32 KUI control, and now I've wrapped it in a structure. And the reason that I've done this, and I think I'm going to go through a lot of the other systems and do this as well, is type safety. Because we cannot just pass, the wrong type of handle through here, for example. Because it's its own typedef structure, it gives us a little bit more type safety. I think they call it the new type pattern, if I remember correctly. And so this just kind of gives us a little bit more type safety, but still allows us to use a U32. And what we can also do is we can just cold cast this to U32 if we want, or we can just use the dot value, which is what I've actually done throughout the system. But as far as the rest of the code base goes, the rest of the code base does not deal with pointers to any of these various types of controls. It just deals with these KUI controls. And so that keeps us from having to pass pointers around, which is great because that was dealing with ownership issues. There was kind of starting to get into the way of doing a lot of the things that we need to do. And it made it really tricky when it came to shutting down and disposing of resources occupied by controls and order of operations when all that stuff shuts down. And now we don't have to worry about any of that because all of the resource management for controls is done within the UI system, and everything else external to that simply deals with these handles. So that's the basic gist of it. We could go into more detail, but I don't know if it's really necessary, to be completely honest. We did kind of go over this in the last stream, so I think I'm probably just going to leave it here and let the diffs speak for themselves, right? So right before we started this stream, I actually pushed all of this stuff up to the 0.11 release branch. Anyway, let me catch up with some chats. Been good. Feel like I'm stuck in that old Exhibit Yo Dog meme with the rewrites to my game engine. Yeah, I've been there for sure. Over the weekend, as I was rewriting this system, I was like, oh god, how long is this going to take? But I actually got it done in like a day and a half, which wasn't too bad. And I say a day and a half, it was really one day I spent like 3 hours on it, and another day I spent like an hour and a half on it. So, but yes, I do understand where you're coming from on that. Orshi, good to see you, buddy. How have you been? Alex, good to see you as well. Let's see over on the YouTube side. Singy and From Lake, good to see you both. Got a finished game yet? You're funny. You're very funny. So, we do have some visual updates as well. Also started using Tmux over the weekend, and now I'm kicking myself for not using it earlier. Yeah. Especially when you get like session restore plugins and stuff like that. There's some pretty awesome stuff you can do with Tmux. I use it all the time. So, visual updates. Let me run this real quick. All right, so we'll just load up our old, faithful scene here. We'll go into editor mode, and we'll open up the tree view. So as you can see here, the tree view itself looks kind of similar to how it looked last time, although now I can actually click into these things and expand them. So there may be some additional work that we have to do, visually, getting things to line up a little bit better, things like that. Figuring out what we want to do to occupy the space of nodes that don't have children, right? Because I don't have this button, so there's sort of a blank space here. But it doesn't really make any sense to left justify those either. So I don't know. But we can actually go through and expand these things now. But as you can see, that is going to expose some other issues that we have to fix. But the good part about this is all of this is actually working as expected now. So we can actually expand and collapse these different things. And drill down and actually click on these to select objects, right? So we can actually use these things to select various objects around the world. And so we could do that, and then we can go back to entity and see what we've selected, go back to the tree, and say, well, actually I want this bricks model thing to be selected, and then go back to scene and do that there. I think right now I actually have the tree resetting or rebuilding every time I go back to this tab. I don't know that I'm going to have that. I'm probably not going to do that. I'm just doing that so I can keep it updated. And obviously, anytime we add something to the scene or remove something from the scene, we're going to want to do that as well. We're going to want to, obviously rebuild this. But another thing that we can also do is, let's say I've drilled down and I've selected this child cube. Well, we can actually hit Z on the keyboard for zoom to extents, and I can actually just go straight to it now. So it makes it a lot easier to find objects within the world. So there's a couple things that we need to do. A couple of things that are going to be convenience, and a couple of things that are really going to be kind of required. So one thing that I would like to do is make it so that when you double click one of these guys, it'll actually present you with a text box that you can type into and rename that object right then and there without having to go back to the entity view to do it. You could technically just go back here and rename it anyways, right? So we could do, we could rename this, I don't know, foobar cube. Whoops. Ooh, I've got a highlight issue there. That did not update. I wonder why it's done that. Okay. I'm not surprised. I did just rewrite the entire UI system, so I won't be surprised if there are, an issue or two with it. But I should still be able, that should still work. Let me go here. Let me try this one more time. So let's take child cube, and we'll do entity. And we'll rename this to Now, is that going to fail it or not? Foobar. And then hit enter. And tab out of it. Is that going to segfault? It didn't, but the highlights messed up. And the highlight on all of them are messed up. Okay. So we've got a bug there we should probably try and figure out. But if I go back to the tree, there we go. So now it's renamed foobar. So, the data is flowing down to the scene and back up to the tree correctly. Obviously, we're going to have bugs and stuff like that pop up that we need to fix along the way. But at least this kind of gives us some sort of indication that we're going in the right direction. Let's see. It also started putting in a bunch of debug primitives into my engine. My collision detection just kind of fell apart with all the new info, so I had to go back and redesign it. Yeah, that's always fun, right? I need to actually add some utilities for generating primitives in my engine as well. I can do wire spheres, planes, blocks, and technically the shapes that are needed for the gizmo. Although those are actually specific to the gizmo at the moment, but I could very easily extract those out to separate things. Need a segfault emote? Actually, that's not a bad idea. I'm gonna write that down. I like that a lot. I gotta see if I can find a good one. I'll have to see if I can find a, the problem with emotes is like, you can only pack so much text in. So I'll have to see if I can find something that makes sense. All right. So as I was saying, there's a couple ways that we could go with this. One thing that we need to do is we need to figure out, or we need to implement when we double click this to have this label essentially disappear and be replaced temporarily with a text box that has this text in it as well, where we can type in the new name of an object, hit enter, then the text box goes away, it updates the label control, renames the entity in the scene, and then we're good. The other thing that we have to do is we need some way to sort of mark on here what's selected versus what's not, because right now it's just you kind of there's no visual indication in this list as to what's selected. My thoughts are kind of just maybe a highlight box behind this whole thing, right? Just another panel that has a slightly lighter color that can do that. Another bigger thing might be, and this might be actually what we look at tonight, we'll see, is if we go through here and expand all of these, we can see that we extend beyond the bottom here, right? So what we need really is the ability to have like a scrollable container where if the content of that container exceeds the bounds of it, then we show a scroll bar that we can use to, scroll that view back and forth. And then potentially have like mouse wheel scroll events to be able to scroll it, as well as being able to click buttons on the scroll bar, right? And that is going to be something that we're going to need in a bunch of places, because we're going to need that for like displaying text, for like quest dialogues and stuff. We're going to need that probably quite a lot. So that's probably, I'm thinking that might be maybe a control of its own. Where right now sort of the base control that holds all of these tree items is just sort of a base UI control. And instead of having that, maybe we have a scrollable UI control that has properties that we can set on it. where we can say things like, do we want to allow it to overflow or do we just clip it? Do we want to allow it to scroll on the X or on the Y, or do we just clip it? Things of that nature. I'm thinking probably if you put, I'm thinking if you put controls into a scrollable area, it's probably going to clip by default. And I don't know if we even need to like allow you to not clip that, because it kind of seems kind of dumb to have that if you're not going to clip it, right? So I guess we figure that out first, maybe. Maybe that would be a good thing to kind of work on tonight, because it'll be interesting to see how the clipping area is going to interact with all of that stuff. So I guess let's take a look at that. So we'll go ahead here and let's see, what do I want to base this on? I guess I could do this based off of the UI panel. Although I don't think I'm going to have it have a background of any color or of any kind. Maybe I should. Nah, because we can just place a panel behind it if we want to do that. All right, let's do this. Let's take the UI panel, and we are going to create a UI. Do I want to call it scrollable? Scroll container? From like is asking Z for zoom instead of F for focus. I believe F is a more industry standard, like Maya and Nuke. So the reason I went with Z is it's for zoom to extents, right? So it basically takes the camera and zooms it to the extents of the selected object, meaning the outer bounds of it, which is actually a 3ds Max term. So, I mean, we could rename it to something else, but like that's literally what it's doing. Is it's not really a focus, because like a focus I consider you've clicked something and now that has the focus, right? You've selected something and now that has the focus, versus an action like moving the camera or zooming the camera in to the extents of that particular object. That's why I went with Z. All right. So we'll do, let's see, what do we want to call this? I guess we'll call it, let's do we want to do container? I don't think I like container. Maybe scrollable. KUI scrollable. Because KUI scroll container is just too verbose. Yeah, let's go with that. I don't want to think about it anymore. All right, so let's do that. And then I'm also going to copy panel C and rename this to scrollable. If I think of something different, we can always rename it, right? So let's actually just get rid of this other view for a second. And I'm actually just going to do a find and replace. So we're going to replace panel with scrollable globally. And then we'll do the same thing in this file, right? Okay, so there's going to be some things that we need and we don't need in here. Let's see, so typed control. Oh, we don't have the KUI scrollable control. We don't have any of that stuff yet. We should probably start there, now that I think about it. And we don't have the type defined either. So let me actually just uppercase that. All right, I guess we need to go to KUI system. And we need a new control. Again, I think I'm going to base this off the panel. Then we'll go from there. So this is going to be scrollable control. And let's see, we don't need color. We don't need a geometry. We don't need a binding instance ID because of that. We do, however, actually we do need a geometry. Give me that back. We need the geometry for clipping. Actually, no, I don't think we do. Unless we're going to render... I'll keep it for now. All right. So we need a couple things when it comes to a scrollable control, right? And I'm just going to... I'm going to mark all these things off, or put, have these flags as booleans initially, just while I'm sort of prototyping it, and then we'll convert them to flags later, like we've done with other stuff. So we'll do B8s. Actually, yeah, let's do scroll X and scroll Y. Right? And then we also need a size, but the base control actually has bounds that we can use. So we don't need a separate thing for that. We do need an event eventually for scrolling, but I don't think we actually have passed that along to our UI at all yet. So we're going to have to fix that in the future. For right now, we'll just use buttons. And speaking of buttons, buttons are going to be, there's going to be 3 buttons that we're going to need. We're going to need one for an up arrow, one for a down arrow, and then one for the individual sort of thing that you can slide back and forth. And I don't know, we probably won't have that draggable, at least at first, but eventually we will. So let's go with KUI control. And we're going to do up button. And then we'll have down button and oh, I forget, what do they call that thing? There's a specific term for it. And I can't think of what it is. So we'll just say scroll button for now. And then we probably ought to also have a panel control. Whoops. Control. A scroll bar background panel, right? So that'll give us essentially the background of the scroll bar. So just as a a reference point here, if I pull down a browser, right, we have the up button here, the down button down here, and then we have this thing that you can sort of grab. And then you also see that it's a little bit hard on this website, I guess, to see the color difference. Here we go. We'll use this page instead. So you have this sort of thing that you can drag here, and then you can also click in here and like page it down a little bit at a time. And so I think that would be good to have as well. But the first thing that we're going to do is basically get the scroll bar to work. And then get the buttons here and make sure that it actually clips as it's supposed to. So let's see, we have whether or not we want to scroll in each direction, our controls that we need. Do we need anything else? We probably do. I'm probably not thinking about it, but I think that's a good enough place to start. Okay, so let's take this and and create let's see, scrollable controls, right? So that's our specific type array for that. And then we'll go to our system initialize, and we will set up the D array for it, right? So I'm actually just going to do this, scrollable controls, and then scrollable control there. And then we'll have to hook up a couple things, right? So we've got one for, we need to hook up our destruction of that, right? So I'm just going to copy pasta this. Probably ought to set this up in macros, but until I'm done debugging it, it's easier to handle this way. So scrollable controls, and one more here. And then we have, scrollable control destroy. I think it's actually just scrollable destroy. No? Yeah, need to include scrollable H. All right. Okay, so that's our cleanup. And then, let's see. I think the only other things we need to do is when we go to add in a new handle, create or release a handle, right? We need to edit the arrays that way as well. So I'm just going to copy from, I guess, just this one. Oh, we didn't add the type here. We need KUI control type scrollable. All right. And so here we have, should really be here. Case, KUI control type scrollable. Break. Okay, so we're basically going to do this same thing here. And again, yes, I know we have lots of repetitive stuff here, but I just rewrote this stuff this weekend, and I want to keep it separated out, macro-free until I'm sure that I've worked all the bugs out, which we've seen that there's a couple. So scrollable controls, again, we just go through here and edit this logic. And one more. And I think that's it for that. And then in the release is actually pretty straightforward as well. So we can just do one here. So we want the scrollable controls, and then KUI scrollable control, right? Okay, so I think that's all we need to actually do from the base system, just to add new control type, right? There's not really a whole heck of a lot to it, quite honestly. All right, so let's go back to KUI scrollable and take a look at the errors that we have left in here, which I think most of this has to do with just the stuff that we kind of ripped out that we don't know, that we don't need anymore. So reasonable defaults. Okay, so we have typed control. What do we have? So we're going to say scroll X. We're going to say that's true for now. And I'm going to say that scroll Y is going to be true as well. Eventually, we're going to have properties to set that. In fact, I guess we could probably just go ahead and modify this now. So size, we'll go ahead and keep, right? We'll use size to determine the bounds. As far as color, we don't need that. We are just going to do, I guess we'll just do them as booleans, right? So scroll X B8 scroll Y, right? And then we'll just go here and do the same thing. And then I think I said size. Did we actually do that anywhere? I don't think that we actually did. Okay, so let's do, oh, there it is, bounds. Okay. So we have that. Our function pointers are already assigned because we just renamed things, so that's fine. All right, so generating UVs, we don't need to do that. We don't have anything to do that for. Create a simple plane. That is possibly going to be needed when we go to render the clipping area. I think we actually handled that in text box. Let's see. Generate quad. Yes. So we needed to do... In fact, I think I'm actually just going to take this and do... Binding set, resources. Do we need that? All right, I'm just going to grab this bit for now. So essentially, we need clip mask geometry. Let's see, type control, clip mask. Okay, so we apparently had a different... Oh, I forgot I actually already had a structure set up for that. Okay, so we do need that. So we might not actually need that geometry, but we'll see. In fact, I'm pretty sure we don't. I think the KUI clip mask has geometry in it. Yes, it does. Okay. All right. So... All right, so clip mask, in this case, in the text box, our clip mask had to be sort of brought in a little bit from the edges. In the case of this control, we are just going to use the bounds for the size of the clip mask. So I think the way that I'm going to do this... Oh, you know what?
You dingus.
I think we were using actual geometry positions for rendering the clip mask, when we probably should just have a unit scale, or a unit positions and then scale it. We should probably do that in the future. That way, in case we resize, we don't have to re-upload geometry. But I'm not going to do that for now. I'm going to leave it as is. Let's see. In this case, generating the quad. So we need the width and the height. So that's literally just going to be size X and size Y. Oops. And then I think all the rest of that is texture coordinates, which we don't care about. And then the name doesn't really matter either, but I'll just go ahead and put it in here, and we'll say scrollable clipping box. That's really just for debug purposes. So we'll get that in there. And then the transform, we don't actually need to set that at all. I'll just comment that out because our clipping area is going to be the same as the bounds, right? So that's going to be 0 transform. That should be fine. Okay, this create simple plane, that can go away. I don't know that we need this stuff, so I'm going to actually comment that out for now, and we'll remove it later if I am sure that we don't need it. Let's see, render geometry destroy. Okay, so I actually think in... Do we actually destroy that stuff in here, though? That's the question. We don't. Okay, well that's a bug in here. All right, so I'm gonna leave this and put a to-do in here. Oops. Destroy clipping mask. Because I don't really care about that right now. I just want to get this working. Scrollable control update. I don't think we have anything to do in there. We may have to update the geometry of this clipping control, or the clipping mask, but for right now, I don't think there's anything in there that we really need. Okay, so if control is dirty, we may need to here re-upload vertex geometry for clipping mask, question mark. Again, I don't think we actually have to do that. And in fact, if we could just use scale instead, that would be better. But let's see. Typed control G vertices. Okay, so we don't need to do this at all. So we can remove that. And then resize, we're going to have to do base bounds. Let's see, G vertices. So this needs to be clip mask, clip geometry vertices. Right, that's on resize. And this is all going to have to be reworked. So to do, need to calculate what the resize should be, probably from the parent control on window resize. So I'm not going to worry about that for right now. We're just going to leave it. All right, let me see. No love for immediate mode GUIs. No, I mean, I might make one, right? But like,
good day, mate.
This is just kind of what I started with, because it meets the immediate needs of what I had, right? So, whoa, Footlong, thank you so much for the gift subscription to wait, yeah. Wait, is that a I'm confused as to what that message means. Immediate needs over immediate GUI. Yeah, exactly. I was wording that poorly because the sound threw me off. So basically, I really just needed a retained mode GUI for the editor. And I was like, well, I could write two systems, and I probably am going to write an immediate mode GUI as well. But retain mode just kind of gives me what I need right now. I don't know. I just kind of had to choose one or the other, and I basically flipped the coin and chose. It doesn't really matter all that much to me, to be completely honest. Because the UI that we're writing right now is for the editor, but it's not going to be what, mostly ships with the game itself. And I have a feeling that the game is probably going to require a lot of custom UI work either way. So I don't think this matters all that much for that. Let's see. Frozen Shadow, how's it going? Good to see you. Have I taken a look at C3? I have not. No. Yeah, I have no interest in converting a almost 90,000 line code base to another language. And I definitely don't have the time to look at another language at the moment, so sunk cost fallacy and all that. Hello from Brazil over there on the YouTube side. How's it going? Good to see you. We have some Brazilians in chat sometimes over on the Twitch side too, although I think our regulars are not in there at the moment. But yeah, we have some. I think like 14% of my viewership across the board is all from Brazil. So appreciate you guys. Told someone I'm making a game engine with Vulkan and C from this YouTube series called Kohi. Explained I should use C++ so you can work in Unity. Wait a minute. He told you should use C++ to work in Unity? That's not the way that works. That's very funny. Scroll bar, make it work with mouse scroll wheel when the mouse is in the window container. Yes, that's one of the things we're going to do. That was what I was saying is we have to pass the scroll event through, right? But the first version of this, the easiest version of it, is to make it work with buttons, right? So we're gonna take it one step at a time. We're gonna make it work with buttons first. Then I'll probably throw the scroll in, the scroll wheel event, right? And then I will worry about the sort of thumb button, I think is what they call it. I'll worry about scrolling using that with the drag event probably last. Do you have UI colors scattered in the project or one file with all the colors, settings, and variables? Can this be saved with presets for colorblind, dark mode, day mode, and so on? So as far as what we're doing right now, no. We have quite a few different hard-coded things. But when I say they're hard-coded, what I've done is I've created the properties so that it's configurable, but I've just hard-coded what those are set to. And so eventually we're going to do a pass over the entire system and set up like color schemes and things like that where it's actually configurable in probably some sort of configuration file. Similar to how we do configuration for our scenes, we'll have one of those for UI. And then when we set that up, we'll be able to hook up all of that various stuff that way. And so I've got some ideas on how we're going to do that as well. Because eventually I would like to be able to apply a very loose set of styles to how all this stuff works. Recently came across your channel, loving it. Awesome. Well, welcome. Glad to have you here. Let's see. I don't know which is worse, Unity or C++, or trying to use C++ with Unity. I would say it's probably worse. In Kohi scrollable control, rename scroll button to middle button. Oh, yeah. So it wasn't middle button. I actually just thought of the name as I was talking about this. It's actually, the thing that's used is thumb button. That's the industry standard term for it. I just couldn't think of it. So yeah, that's this thing right there that you drag. That's called the thumb button. I just couldn't think of it at the time. Meme set versus malloc. Meme sense. What does the zero memory do? Yeah, mem set to 0. Yep. Just the shortcut. Unity is written in C++, but it doesn't expose that as far as I know. It doesn't expose the C++ interface. It only exposes everything through C#. Unless they've changed that. I haven't used Unity in quite a long time. Where was I? Okay, so I think we have most of the things in here that we need. Minus this. I guess we can get rid of that warning. Okay, so I guess the first test of this, let's go to our, you think? I guess we should probably go to editor. And when we go to, whoops, wrong search. We'll go to initialize. Let's see, it's the main window, scene inspector. let's do the tree panel window, right? Because that's going to be the first place we're going to use this. So base tree control. This is going to be a scroll container now. So the only thing we should have to do is do scrollable. And actually, we don't. Actually, it's not even that. We should. I mean, we could do it that way, but probably the better way to do it is scrollable control create. And then what were the other properties? Let's see. We had size and scroll X and scroll Y. Okay, so size. Size, I think we had here. Right there, actually. So we can use tree inspector width. So let's actually do, and this needs to be a vec2, I think it was. So we'll go with X will be state tree inspector width. And height, I'm going to hard code to 400 right now. And we're going to have to resize this. Was it not a vector 2 that I wanted? I thought it was. Maybe it was a vector 2i. I don't know. Let's just finish filling in the rest of it. So we want to be able to scroll in X and we want to be able to scroll in Y. Why is this? Oh, it's missing a comma, you dungus. There we go. I was going to say, why does this all look wrong? There we go. Okay. So, we've just converted that to a scrollable control. So we're not going to worry about the scrolling or the offsets or any of that stuff first. I want to make sure that the clipping works first. Because I'm not completely convinced that it will. Scrollable C78. Oh, we got the wrong type in here. Or are we just not, we're not using that yet. That's fine. KUI system, scrollable not handled in switch. Aha, forgot one. Oh, right, to get the base for the item type. Yeah, so this needs to be scrollable controls. Okay, built. Let's see how far off this is. All right, expand. Okay, it's definitely not clipping. So, why? Actually, I could have swore, because clipping data is actually part of the typed. I think clipping data is actually part of the typed control, which means the renderer doesn't know about it. Renderable clip mask geometry data. Oh, well, also, I didn't add that to the renderable, like a dongus. Cool. All right, so let's go back to here. And I'm actually going to go back to the KUI text box. And we'll go into renderable. And don't we have attach the clipping mask? Here we go. So we need this in our render. Let's just put that down here. which actually should work right out of the box, I think, unless I've done this wrong. All right, was there anything else that I needed to do to get that to work? I don't remember. Because this part of the code I did not touch. So yeah, okay. We need that. That's important. So we'll put that there as well. Maybe that's it. So for the renderable, I think we're going to have to attach this to, I think I see how we're doing this. So whenever we render any control, if we have a clipping area, we basically are going to have to add that actually to every single renderable that's underneath of it. Which means I probably need to hoist this up and not do it here. It probably needs to be like a more base level thing. Because otherwise this is only going to clip, I think, one thing at a time. And in the text box case, that was the correct thing to do, but in this case, it's not. So I think we're going to have to go through I wonder if we can... Let me see what this does, actually. I suspect this is probably going to clip the wrong thing, but I wonder if there's a way that I can apply this recursively to renderables. Yeah, it's definitely not doing the thing. Let me set that to something smaller so it's a little bit more obvious. So let's do... I think I said 400. Or no, that was the size of the control, wasn't it? Where did I set that? I think I set that here. Yeah, 400. Let's actually just set this to 100 for a second. That way we can know right away when the clipping works. Okay, so I guess what we're going to have to do is go into the renderer. And this is actually going to have to be the KUI renderer. And clip mask render data. Let's see. Okay, so if we have this, we go through the renderables. The problem is this is a flat list of renderables. So this is actually not probably going to be where we want to put this. Because I think when we generate the renderable data, we probably ought to have... Let me think about this for a second. So we don't want to like be turning this on and off all the time, right? Like that's kind of extreme. Because the way it works right now is we basically have clip mask render data and it gets set for one thing. So we set a whole bunch of stuff to be able to use that. and then we render that, and then we render the thing that it's supposed to be clipping, and then we turn it all back off. That's going to be terribly non-performant when we have something like a scroll box or a scrolling container that has lots of controls inside of it, right? Ideally, what we should be able to do is render the clip mask once, right? So it writes to the stencil buffer, and then everything after that, or underneath of that, essentially renders using that. And then we shut it back off. That seems like a much more reasonable design. So, I think we need to rethink how we actually do clipping. I think I've done more linear algebra in the last 72 hours than I have in the past 38 years. Yeah. That was me a couple of weeks ago when I was fixing gizmo issues. For sure. Kaya over on the YouTube side, how's it going? Good to see you. All right. So the way that this render frame works now is we have this KUI render data, which essentially just has this list of renderables, and it just blasts through it, right? And a KUI renderable is basically just this, right? So we have a binding instance ID for when it writes the shader, so it knows, how to set up the bindings and whatnot when it goes to write that. It has in here whether or not we're using an Atlas override, and then it has the actual geometry render data, and it has clip mask render data. So instead of, and clip mask render data is really just render data, right? So the idea is that if we wanted to clip something, we would just attach clip mask render data to that, and it would just clip it. But really speaking, we don't necessarily really want to do that. So I think what we need is almost like a KUI renderable type, where we can say, we'll say enumeration, KUI renderable type, right? And we'll have KUI renderable type control, which is going to be the first, and it's not an accident that I'm setting that to 0, because that way we don't have to go and set it manually all over the place. And then we can have KUI renderable type clip begin, and KUI renderable type clip end. And what I'm thinking here is that we can basically just tag each one of these renderables. And whenever we have the clip mask render data, instead of doing it as a separate property like that, we'll just set the type to clip begin, and then use this geometry as the clip mask data, right? And then from there, we basically keep the clip mask active until we come across a clip end, or we come to the end of the renderable list, whichever happens first. And I think if we do that, we should be good. It'll be interesting to see. I'm just trying to think if we If we have multiples, that might wind up being an issue. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, because I don't really think that's... I don't really want to have like too many of these things active at once. So let's go with a KUI renderable type. Right, and we'll just have this render data here. Okay. So what that will mean is in the renderer here, instead of saying if this clipping mask geometry is on that particular renderable, we're going to check the renderable type. Let's see. So, okay, yeah, and then we have the end here, which will turn that stuff back off. Okay, and then I think we should probably also keep track of whether it's actually turned on. So let's just do right now, we're going to do a B8 clip mask active, and we're going to say false. Right? If we want more than one of these, this design isn't going to work, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So we'll do if renderable type equals KUI renderable type clip begin. Then we're going to do all of these things. Otherwise, and it looks like we actually have, looks like we're setting this all the time too, which is also not great. Let's see. I'm going to comment that out for right now. So clip mask begin does this. We're going to do, what did we say that was? Clip mask active equals true. And actually, we're going to assert here that clip mask active is not already true when we run into one of these things. So clip mask active equals true, and then we don't have a specific render data for this. We just have the render data. Oh, wait a minute. Clip mask render data, wasn't that... That was just geometry render data, right? Yeah, it was. So renderable render data. Oh, dot. There we go. Okay, so we've got this dot there, render data. This, I think, is going to want a pointer, right? So we want to take the address of that. Okay. And then, let's see, render the actual renderer. Okay, so this, we're not going to, let's see, wait a minute, though. We don't need this piece. Let's see if... Let me think about this for a second. Okay, so we actually need to surround this piece in a check as well, right? So if it's just a regular renderable control, then we do, oops, this. And then if it is of type end, clip end, then we probably ought to just assert, right? clip mask active. And then we'll do clip mask active equals false. And then renderable here is just going to be render data. Oh, I actually don't need that check because it's not a pointer anymore. Okay. Okay. I think that should do it, right? Because this will check if it's of type begin, it'll do all this stuff to begin. If it's type control, it'll just do the normal thing. If it's type end, it'll do this. And then by the time we get to the end of this, we should probably also have an assertion here that the clip mask is not active. Or I guess we could say if the clip mask is active, maybe we... you know what? Let's actually do this. Let's actually just copy this and say if we reach the end of the list, we're just going to make sure that the clip mask is shut off. Right? Good enough, I guess. Okay. Which actually, I guess we don't need to set the Boolean, but whatever. Okay. I feel like that's all we need to do in the renderer to get that to work. Now the other thing is when we actually go to draw the control. So for the text box, for example, here what we were doing was we were essentially saying, okay, let's just attach the clipping mask to the highlight box, which would be the last element added. And that was right here, right? So whenever you call .render on something, that is essentially going to create a render data for that particular thing, and then attach that to the list, right? Or append it to our array of renderables. So now what we need to do is we need to actually change that up to instead say, no, we need to create a new entry, and the highlight base is what we want to clip. So we actually need to create two new entries, right? So we need a, let's do KUI renderable, right? And this is going to be clip begin renderable. And we'll just do this for now. And then we'll do darray push. And we want to do render data renderables. And we want to push in the clip begin renderable, right? And all we need to do here is we need to just do clip begin renderable. Let's see, I think we might actually have to copy all of this stuff. Annoyingly, we might actually have to copy all of this stuff manually. Do we do it anywhere else? Where was it grabbing the geometry from before? So we have the model matrix there. The geometry update there. I guess I could use that. Okay, so I think we can do, let me just paste that there for a second. So the geometry render data we need diffuse color doesn't actually matter. Do I want, I guess we could just use type control. Clip mask, render data. Oh, I could just use, do I already have that set up? Maybe I do. Render data equals typed control, clip mask, render data. The important bit here, though, is going to be the type needs to be set to KUI renderable type clip begin. What else is in here? I don't know that I actually need to set. That might actually be it. It doesn't seem right, though. Render data, geometry render data. We'll try this first and see if it works. I'm not 100% sure that that's all I need to do, but we do essentially need to just create the renderable, push it, right? Then we do the stuff that we want to be clipped. So that would be the highlight base, and actually the label should be as well. And then we want one more of these after that to say end, right? So we're going to say end renderable, end renderable. And then this is just going to be end. Oops. And nothing else in that structure matters. The only thing that actually matters is the end. I think that should cover us. I think. So we'll have to test this with text boxes, and we'll have to test this with our scroll trees as well, or our scroll container as well. So our scrollable, when we do render, wait a minute though. How are we going to... That hack works for the text box, but it doesn't really work for a container that we don't know what its children are. Technically, we need a way to say from the renderer, we have this control, and any of its children, we need it to basically be clipped. So I think we're going to have to go up one level further. Let's see. Is it KUI system? No. So that's handled fine. Where do we actually... Right here. This is what I was looking for. Okay. So as we recurse the children, this is actually what we need to do. This is actually where we should be inputting those things, right? So to do, if there is a clipping mask, insert the begin renderable here, and then also we need to insert the end here, right? So the clipping mask should include the control itself and then all of its children. If we do that, then by the time that gets over the renderer, it should be correct. So that means that we actually need to take this clipping mask logic and remove it from the typed control, and we should actually be able to apply this, I guess, to any control. Which I really didn't want to add that to every type of control, but I think we might have to. Yeah, okay. So, let's see. I guess we can do it. Let's do that with the text box first, because we kind of had that figured out. Right, so we have the clip mask here. So I'm going to actually take this KUI clip mask off of the text box control, and we're going to go to the base control. And we're going to put that here, next to bounds. All right. And then control size sets. I think any control that actually uses it will be responsible for actually setting its properties. And then, so in other words, for all of these things here, this is actually just going to be base. Right, so base, 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 right? And then the clip mask geometry, which we've got some duplication of data in here we might need to actually get rid of, but at least for this first pass, I'm going to leave it as is, just until we get it working. And then we'll investigate cleaning that up some. One more here. And I guess that's... it for that. Okay. So what that means is oops, that was tree item. Yeah, there was one more. Thought so. Base. Okay. So when we do, instead of doing this here, we do this here. So let's see, if we need a way to check this. So if base clip mask, how do we want to do, what can we use to actually flag that, right? I guess if it has render data, right? So in the render data, we can look at the, I don't know, vertex count. It's kind of a hack, but it's not going to have that if it doesn't have a clipping mask. So let's roll with that for now. And let's actually do, you know what? I'm actually going to separate this out. So we're going to do B8's use clip mask equals false, and then we're going to say, oops, here we'll say use clip mask equals true, and then here we'll do if use clip mask, because the branching that we're using here, the criteria that we're using here is going to change. I just don't know what that criteria is going to be yet. So I want to separate the criteria as to whether or not, from whether or not we're actually going to do it. So we have this, and then we also have this. So if we're using the thing, this is going to be clip and renderable. This is going to be is just going to be end. Right? And we'll push that. And then in theory, that should give us everything that we need. So we've removed that from here. I'm also going to remove that. I'll just comment it out for now. And I guess in the scrollable, we are going to keep that. Let's see, typed. Oh, we don't want the clip mask in the typed data anymore, though. We want that in the base data. So we'll get rid of that. We'll do base here and here. And then we're not going to do that. And then I guess we're going to have, this is going to be base and base. All your base are belong to us. Aging myself with that meme, probably. All right, let's see, there's one more. All right, am I done with errors? I think. Okay, all right. I don't know that I actually need a different transform for the clipping mask or not, but we'll keep it in case we want to offset it, I guess. All right, let's try that. Okay, well, we do have a clip mask. It's not completely correct, but we can see that it's working because the ends of our text box are clipped off here. So let me load up. Okay. So we can see that it's clipping our 9 slice too. So we're gonna have to figure out how we want to handle that. That was the reason I had sort of that custom hack in place for the text box, but we can come back to that. Let's go to the tree, and that's clipping everything. Cool. All right, so let me think about that for a second. So why would that be clipping everything, whereas the text box does not? Let's open ye old text box, and let's see the clip geometry. Let's see, size X and size Y. Scrollable container. I think, let me check a couple things real quick, because we might actually So when we do create this guy, yeah, we're doing tree inspector width and then 100 tall. All right, maybe 100 was not quite generous enough. We should be seeing something, but I'm not convinced that all of this is correct. So let's see. So we have the size here. We set up the bounds here. The bounds are what we use to create. Well, it's what we should be using to create this. But we are using the size X and Y here, so that should be fine. We upload that geometry. We have an identity matrix for the model. Do we actually set that later? I think we do. I'm going to have to double check that. Actually, let's check it now. That might actually be the problem. Here we go. Base, clip mask, render data, model. Okay, yeah, so we replaced that with the clip K transform. Oh, did we actually set that up? Did we actually set that up? Clip K transform. UI text box. Oops. KUI text box. We don't actually set up the transform. It's commented out. That might do it. All right, base. Oh, we commented out because of corner size. So in this case, that is going to be zero. And even though we're creating a zero transform, right, we could actually just do K transform create. Even though it's an identity transform, we still actually need it to be created. Otherwise, we don't have anything to actually render with. So all of this stuff that was happening is probably failing because we weren't actually generating transform. There we go. So we can see there that it's being clipped indeed, right? We can see that plain as day, that it is in fact clipping off the text as we expect. So, and it's doing it for all the child controls as well, which is perfect. Okay, so that's the first kind of thing that we needed to get set up. That actually took a little longer than I had thought, but honestly, it was a little bit more involved than I thought it was going to be too, so I'm okay with it. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to actually get it to respect the size of the control. So whenever we do a resize on that, and I think this is going to be pretty much the same no matter what we do. Let's see, we need to recalculate what the resize should be, probably from the parent control on window resize. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily have to be from the window. We can actually pass this down. Okay, so I can get rid of this actually. However, the is dirty flag does need to be handled. So let's see. Do we not actually have that? Do we not actually do that for the text box? I guess we don't. Oh, under size set, there we go. Okay, so we update the 9 slice, we update the bounds. Okay, we don't have a 9 slice, but we do update the bounds here. It looks like we regenerate the quad, which is kind of... I'm not sure why we're doing that, but I am going to take... this here. You know what? Let me see. Maybe we don't even need the dirty flag. Maybe we can just do it in line here. So we'll just take... let's see. VG vertex count vertices. Okay, so I think we can actually just use... let's see. We can actually just use... we know the vertex count is 4. And the vertices... are just going to be vertices. And we don't want that to be part of the framework load. We want it to just happen on the fly. So maybe we can get rid of, or not have to worry about the dirty flag. So editor, we'll go to resize. And we already do a couple of things, like we set the height of the panel here. We set the width of, or we set the position of some of our panels and stuff like that. So let's see. And that is just to get it to stick to sort of the right side of the screen. So I think we can actually just do scrollable resize. And we're going to do state KUI state. The control is going to be the state tree base control, I think is what we called it. I really need to rename that. And then the vector2 size is going to be, so let's see. So we're going to want the height probably to be similar to that of the panel, minus like 50 for the title, right? So we're going to say, for now, the width is going to be, what did we actually set the width to? I think that's states tree inspector width. Did we do... I don't know if we did -10 on that or not. I can't remember. We'll go ahead and set that, and then we'll do, for height, we'll go ahead and do window height. And then we'll do 120, -120, and then -50. And yes, I could say, you know, -170, right? But I plan on turning those into variables. So it just makes it a little bit more obvious exactly how that stuff's split up. Let's see. Type control unused variable. Okay, so that's at 138. All right, I'm just going to comment that out for now. And we built. Let's run this. Open up the tree view. Okay, so we see here we've got more space. We'll just expand these all out. And it looks like if I go ahead and shrink this a little bit, yeah, it is clipping that off. And it looks like it's right to the edge, which is fine. So that's the first thing, right? First thing is we need the clipping area. Because without that, you know, you can't really tell what's going on with scrolling. So the next thing that we're going to need is we're going to need a couple pieces of data. We're going to need the entire area of the sort of scroll control, right? So that's going to be the visible area, which is going to be the bounds of the control. So we already have that. The second piece that we're going to need is we're going to need the size of the content. So we're going to need some way to measure out the content of that control. And that is what is going to get a little bit tricky. So essentially what we're going to have to do is somehow report to the owning control what the size of all of these controls is going to be. And so ideally, whenever we set up things like this, where we have one singular control for a tree item that includes potentially other children controls, ideally the bounds for this entire control should encapsulate this. And right now I highly doubt it is. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. And so we should be able to just loop through sort of the top level controls and say, what are the bounds? What are the bounds of all of your controls and their children? And then we essentially should be able to pile those up and say, since we don't have any sort of document flow right now, and I don't think I'm ever going to do that, we should be able to sort of be able to calculate that based off of everything that's actually contained within. The other way that we could do it is, since we already kind of know this data, as we're actually setting up our tree, we could just say, hey, scroll container, the size of your content is this. And then we don't have to sort of recalculate that and add all that fancy logic in for bounds checking and all that stuff. The advantage to that is it's quicker. The disadvantage to that is it's less flexible. However, I think that's the way I'm going to go for now. So what we can do then is we'll use that. We'll say if the content area exceeds that of the bounds in one axis or the other, and we'll check them separately, then we need to show a scroll bar in that direction. And then we also need to hook up the mouse wheel events to essentially apply an offset on the X and Y axis to the content area within that control, right? So essentially what that means is we're going to need, I'm actually trying to think, yeah, we're going to need another layer of transform, right? So that we have we have all of these things sort of tied to the scroll box directly, and we're actually going to need like a scroll box content, and then the actual, like a content wrapper, and then the actual content. And essentially what we'll do is we'll apply a offset to that content wrapper, and that's how we'll scroll stuff. So enough talking. Let's see how far we can get with that in 10 minutes. All right, so we have tree base control. I'm going to rename this to tree scrollable control, right? And tree scrollable control. We have a few uses of that. Let's see. Anywhere we're adding a child to that, we are going to need to address. So let's see, the tree. Okay, so this is the initial setup for it. So that's fine. I think it looks like there's only actually one place where we're adding directly to it, which is good. Okay, so in the scrollable, let's see, in the typed data, let's see, we want to put, boy, do we have anything here in, okay. We want to add one more thing, right? So we have our scroll bar background, our up button, our down button, all that stuff. We need a KUI control content wrapper, right? And so whenever we create this, we're also going to create a content wrapper. And the content wrapper is just going to be a basic controller. There's nothing going to be fancy about it whatsoever. So all we're going to do is, let's see, probably here at the very end, we're going to do a KUI base control create. The state is going to be state. The name is going to be, I'm going to have to format the name, okay. Let's call this content name equals string format. And we'll just call this content, fine, whatever. And then we'll just do name. So we'll do content name, and then right here we'll do string free content name, so we don't leak that. And then the control type here is just going to be base, right? And that is going to be stored in typed control content wrapper, right? So we've got that. And then all we need to do is set the parent, right? So we'll do a KUI control KUI add child is what it was. I was thinking parent the other way around. So states, the parent is going to be handle, right? Which is sort of the self, right? And then the child is going to be typed control content wrapper. Okay. And then the only other thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come over here to, and we probably ought to think about this a little bit more, but for right now, I'm just going to kind of put in a hack. I'm going to say KUI control, KUI scrollable control get content container. God, that's really long. Okay. But it's a hack. It's temporary. I want to think of a better way to do this. So we're going to do KUI control self, right? And that's just so that we can come over here and attach things to it. So I'm going to go here and we're going to do a KUI control, and we're going to do tree content container. And then in our editor, we're going to do state tree content container equals that, and it's going to be state tree scrollable container, or control rather. What is it? State KUI state, right? So we've got that added, and now whenever we do anything to that, instead of doing that, we just do tree content container, right? And so now we need just a quick way to be able to scroll it up and down. So what I'm going to do is, you know what? I'm gonna hack it for a second, just in the update, just so that we can actually see it animating, right? I'm gonna put in here Let's see. Oh, you know what? We don't actually have a function to be able to do that. So let's add that really quickly. KPI, we'll do void, and then we'll say KUI scrollable control scroll Y, right? So we want KUI states, KUI control self, and then F32 amounts, right? And I guess I'll go ahead, since we're doing this, I'll do scroll X as well. Right, so we'll get this in the C file. And we'll go all the way down here to the end. And let me scroll this up so you guys can see it. All right, and then all we're gonna do is we're going to do a k-transform translate, right? And so this is going to apply a translation to a transform that we have. So we're going to need the base, but we want the base for the container, right? So we want the container, container base. And so that's going to be, oh, I am going to need the base actually to get that. So let's put this in here too. And we're going to put base. Let's see, what did I call that? Oh shoot, it's going to be type data. Actually, we have to get the type data too. KUI scrollable control typed control equals KUI scrollable control base, and then we can do base or typed rather, typed control content wrapper. All right, so we have the container base, and then we can do the container base k-transform. And the translation we want to do is vector 3. And in this case, since we're scrolling on the y-axis, we want 0 for x, the amount for y, and then 0 for z. And that will be enough to actually make the control move. So I'm going to actually just put this in here for x as well, and just switch the x's real quick. Right, and then over here, we can go ahead and we could just do, let's see, instead of main BG panel, we'll just do tree, what did I say? Tree scrollable control. Scrollable, actually I don't even have to do that. I don't even have to retrieve that, come to think of it. I could just do KUI scrollable control scroll Y. And then I can just do states tree scrollable control, and the amount I'm just going to set it to something really tiny like that. And this should be states, KUI states, right? So all we're going to do is we're basically just going to bump it a little bit each frame. Oh, did I not, let's see. Did I not export that? Oh, I don't think I defined that, did I? Nope, I did not. Let me just fix that real quick. All right, so typed control, and we're going to return typed control content wrapper. Will this work at the 11 p.m. mark? Let's see. Oh, balls. Okay, so clip geometry vertices. That's interesting. So how was that working before? Oh, I see. We resized before the thing's loaded, I think. Okay. We can fix that real quick. We'll just do... we'll do this. If not vertices, return. We'll still, I guess, yeah, I'll say return true. It's fine. Let's see. It is not moving. Why is it not moving? Should be. Am I applying it to the wrong thing? Probably. It's a little bit suspicious that this is all of a sudden broken, and it really shouldn't be. Maybe 001 is like way too slow. Maybe it was moving and we just aren't seeing it. It's possible. Why is this, though? Control type base. Yeah, this isn't loaded yet. Okay. All right, I guess let me put... Yeah, okay. So there's some sort of binaries going on there. We'll figure it out in the next stream. We're basically really close to having scrolling working. I don't quite understand, though. That is bothering me why this up here is even an issue. Because... See, was there anything even else I had to do? Oh, I think I know what it... Wait. Did I actually grab... Did I actually grab... I did do it. Tree scrollable control. Get content container. I wonder if that is just wrong. Oh, wait a minute. Tree content container. Yeah, the tree content container should be get content container. Let me make sure that this is returning the content wrapper. Yep, that should be fine for the scrollable control. Why is that all of a sudden not working? Did we add that as a child? I thought I did. Add child. KUI base control creates. Content wrapper. Yep, that's all there. if it doesn't work this time, I'm going to have to end. Yeah, okay. All right, so we'll figure that out on next stream. I think it's probably just something stupid that I missed. But I'll figure out what it is, and we'll go over that on the next stream. Let me see. Let me catch up with chat really fast. What's going on, Spiro? Good to see you, buddy. How have you been? I appreciate the hello. Also, thank you for the follow. The real Wummy. Assume that's how I pronounce your name. Welcome. All right. So let me go find somebody to raid. And while I do that, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me here. We got a lot of stuff done tonight, which is good. And so we'll hopefully be able to finish up scrolling tomorrow, actually. And then once we have scrollable containers, that's going to open up a whole lot of possibilities for us for a whole bunch of different things. Let me find somebody to raid. Let's see. While I'm looking, though, if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate a follow, either on the Twitch side or the YouTube side, or both if you're so inclined. I am trying to grow both channels, so I do appreciate each and every one of those. Let me see. See if I can find somebody doing something similar to what we're doing, something kind of related. I think I see who I'm going to raid. That's sort of my default, but we'll see. All right, yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and raid Jitspo. All right, so that's going to do it. Thank you guys again for hanging out, and yeah, we'll see you guys back here tomorrow night, where we'll tie up all of the scrolling stuff. See you guys later. Have a good one.